What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today I want to talk about those things that I usually do when I come to my boat, or even before I get to my boat, and that is different checks I want to do to just make sure it's going to be a safe and nice and enjoyable trip. First things first, before I even go to the boat, I usually go in, check the weather, check the winds, plan my route a little bit according to that, because out in the archipelago we have thousands and thousands of islands, and depending on the winds, some islands are better than other ones. So what I usually do is to check the winds to find a nice little bay or something I can go into. And if we're gonna spend the night there, or a couple of nights, I also check the wind direction, because that changes a lot in my waters. So you can have a northwest in the evening and wake up to a southeast wind. That is super common. So that's the first thing I do. I check my winds and the weather, how it's gonna be, so I can prepare according to that, and then I just head out to the boat. Right, guys, so I come to the boat, depending on the weather, I check the forecast. That's when I decide which configuration I want to have on my big canvas, if I'm going to take it all off, if I'm going to keep the front part, if I'm going to keep all of it on. And that depends, of course, on the weather. It's going to be like rainy or windy or cold or warm or hot, you know. So I configure my canvas the first thing I do when I come to the boat, make that nice and perfect for the upcoming weather I'm gonna have in the next couple of hours. So then I usually just go a quick around the boat, check that nothing's damaged, there's like nothing has happened to the boat that I need to take care of. Next thing I do is to go to my helm, set up my navigation systems. I have an old plotter that came with the boat. I don't know when it's from actually, but it's connected to the radar, and that's pretty good. And I have that plotter and that charts as a backup, but I usually use my cell phone with some maps in that one. So I just make sure that the phone is charged, or that I have a charger connected to my helm. So next thing I do is to put my DC power on, power up the boat, and check everything. Now I go out from the boat and I check that my shore power is disconnected. I don't want to be driving off with that shore power connected to the dock. That would be pretty embarrassing. Right, so now everything's done more or less with the boat. I'm gonna start doing my startup sequence for my engines, and then I put the blower on to ventilate the engine compartment. I usually do that for about 2 to 3 minutes, and then I open up my engine compartment and check for any leaks, check hoses and oils, check my engine oil, check my stern drive oil, check the trim tab oil, or more or less just check around in the engine compartment that it looks good. When I'm done with that, close my hatch. It's time to start up, and I start up my starboard engine first. That's just something I've been doing and I continue doing. So start that up, make it stable, and then I can start up my port engine. With engines running, I start going through what I need to do for the actual departure and leaving my dock. And what I usually do, just walk around the boat. I go down to the boat, check that the skylight is closed, port lights and so on, that there's nothing open, that you can get water into the boat if you're out driving in the waves and so on. Right, so I've closed all the hatches, engines are running, and I determined that the engines are stable, everything sounds good, smells good, no excessive smoke, black smoke, something like that. I go ahead and release my lines, and as I back into my slip, I always release my bow lines first and work my way backwards. And the last thing I disconnect are my stern lines, which is also easy access. I just walk back and take them off, and I can easily access the helm again. So now it's time actually to push out on my slip. What I do as a final check is to check the winds, that there aren't any gusting winds that I need to counteract, and also check for traffic before I pull out on my slip, so I don't cause any problems between the docks here. And if I see traffic, I stand by, or if I've been pushing out and there's traffic coming, I usually back into my slip as a courtesy to my fellow boaters. Alright, so I've driven out my slip now, and time to take the fenders in. If I'm by myself, I wait until I'm outside the dock to be able to have some more room, or my engines need to idle, super important, and let the boat slow down in case I would fall down into the water while I'm alone. I don't have to chase the boat, and that would be more or less impossible if the engines are in gear and so on. Alright, so now I'm actually configured to be out cruising, but I don't have a configuration, or haven't done the checks I want to do for a high-speed navigation. What I usually do then is that I make sure the cabin is secured, no loose items gonna fly around, and especially like food and drinks won't be spilled out and cause any damage to the cabin. And also check for loose items like swimsuits or towels or something laying around in the cockpit area that can be like blown overboard or something like that. And before I throttle up and go out into plane, I inform my passengers, if I have passengers on board, just make them aware that I'm gonna throttle up. And also before I throttle up and go into plane, I check that my windshield door between the cockpit and the foredeck is closed, because doing that at high speed, a lot of wind forces on it, and you can get injured, and also the actual door can get damaged. So I usually do that before I throttle up. And then my final check before I throttle up is to trim in my stern drives and trim up my trim tabs, so that I know that everything's reset, so I don't get any weird behavior in the boat during throttle up, as it could be configured for a different winds and waves and so on, and also load on the boat. It could be different today than I had yesterday, so I try to reset all those systems so I don't get any strange behavior in the boat. Alright guys, that's the checks I usually do. I hope you like this video, and please subscribe if you haven't already. Hit that notification so you don't miss out on any future videos, and I'll see you in the next one.